Yeah, thank you. What a difficult act to follow. I'm going to try and talk a little bit about customer value and try and make that interesting after that previous talk. So I just thought I'd just explain a little bit. This is really kind of the only slides of the actual work we do. So we're based, as I said earlier, in rural Gloucestershire and do these various different buildings, all very kind of crafts-based. But I've got a bit of a confession to make. About 3 years ago, I got kind of deeply into business self-help. I've been reading a lot of these books, but these four in particular have just been really kind of influential in our practice and developing the practice. So I think we talk of Toyota earlier, so I'm not sure if people know about the lean manufacturing principles. It's quite a complex set of ideas, but it's basically about kind of really stripping out any waste in a process and designing and manufacturing by iteration and fast iterations. And the Lean Startups, a fantastic book about transforming those processes which were designed for the manufacturing industry into more the tech world and into service industries. So it's really relevant for sort of doing that stuff into things like architecture. The other one that I really love is this Creativity Inc., which is written by the guy who founded Pixar. What I really like about it is it's another industry where you've got both highly technical and highly creative things trying to happen at the same time. And it's a really good, he's got some really good anecdotes about how that can work. So through looking at all these books, there's something that kind of comes through in a lot of them, and I think it's been mentioned at various points today, which is customer value. Now, I've kind of, maybe a bit like you might be at the end of a day today, look at customer value and think, I don't quite know what that means. I kind of get it, but it's a bit vague. And I think what I quite like is this equation at the bottom. So customer value is the benefits minus the costs. So it's the benefits that the clients get minus the cost. Now, I think in architecture, I think we're often guilty of kind of focusing on the costs, what percentage we charge, how can we kind of persuade our clients that the cost is kind of justifiable. And I think it's the RIBA Plan of Works, which is a kind of a great document, and it's really good for setting out what we do. I think there's one problem with it, though, and that's that I think it standardises what we're doing, and it makes us all present ourselves in the same way. So if we're using this, and in our fee proposals all have the same sort of sections in them and the same deliverables, going through to this standard, then the only thing that people can differentiate us on is the cost of what we're doing. And therefore, they're just going to choose the lowest value. So, of course, you have your portfolio of work and things like that. But I think there's a real problem with us possibly kind of presenting ourselves in the same way. And that means that the cost is the only thing that people can differentiate on. So what I'm going to talk about is about four different ways that our practice has tried to differentiate ourselves. And the first one is actually trying to differentiate us sort of ourselves within ourselves. So this is the AA website. So this is looking at different charging models. So basically on the left-hand side here, you have all the benefits, and across the top, you have the costs. And what companies like the AA do is they give different benefits and different costs for doing different service levels. They even suggest which one's popular. What's great about this? Does anyone use this way in their fee proposals? Yeah, a few, maybe 15 or so. What's great about this is people tend to want to go out and get different prices so that they compare. One of the things we've found since we started doing this is that people actually can compare you with yourself, which means they don't need to go out and get another comparative cost. So these are other examples of this type of presentation. So this is for a letting agent. You've got all the benefits, again, of the different service levels. And then the one on the right here is for a car. So often in a car brochure, you'll have maybe 80 pages. So this is taken from an 80-page document. And these are all the different things that you can get within the car and then the different models of that car. And it's going into immense detail into all the different benefits you can get with the different models of car. So what we've done is we've done this with our fee proposals. So this on the left here is for our stage 4 fee proposals. So, and we've tried to break this down into as many different things, trying to think of everything we can and putting that in the list. And it ends up being quite a long list. And I think that can be quite a bit like the car model. We're saying exactly what we're doing. I think we could break it down and do it 3 times longer than we have already. But the other thing is, so on the right here, you've got the different stages. I think going through the stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think something that our office manager, who came into architecture from another industry, she noticed how when we charged our fees, all the different stages were presented on the same amount of paper on the fee proposal, and was saying, what if we were to, the stages like stage 4, where we're doing technical design, we're doing a lot more work, what if that took up more space on the page? So actually sort of you see just by looking at it that there's more work. And so on the right there, that's the stage 4 of that. And so this is then the kind of one of the summary pages of that. Interestingly, nearly everyone goes for the enhanced or the premium. And they often start off on the standard. It's like coming to us saying we just want the standard. And then we actually go through the list of all those deliverables and they end up on the enhanced or the premium. And it means that when people say, well, what's the fee percentage that you charge? Well, it kind of depends on what you want. Can be anything, say on this project, from kind of 70% right up to 20%, depending on the kind of the benefits that the client's getting for that. The other thing that we're finding with this is that people are asking a lot of questions prior to when we initially send the fee proposal. They go through all these things, they say, we don't know what half of these are, or we didn't realise an architect did all these things, which then opens up whole conversations about what we do and the value we bring to that. So in some ways you could think, oh, it just leads to all these conversations and questions. Can they not just agree to the fees? But on the other hand, talking about those things early on and demonstrating those things right at the beginning when you're negotiating your fees has been really valuable to us. So I'll just talk very briefly about this, but this is so this was what I was talking about earlier with the photo scanning. And this has really changed our conversion rate with clients as well. I was trying to fit it into the previous talk, but we send out these videos to all our future clients with the fee proposal. And we're getting really good feedback from the clients that they're saying it. Basically, some of them have said, oh, we've watched your video 20 times because we really wanted to kind of really understand the advice that you were giving. And people seem to take it sort of very seriously. It's also a kind of controlled way of delivering our thoughts on a project, because if you're in a client meeting when you're first presenting your ideas face-to-face with the client, it's more of a conversation. Whereas actually in some ways there's something quite good about presenting your ideas in a video where you just have 10 minutes, you have a captive audience, and you can just tell them exactly what you think about the project. And in a strange way, clients seem to really kind of be responding to that. It also is a great tool for being able to take on into the sort of going forwards with the project. We've got this 3D model that we can really kind of use to start modelling schemes in. What's interesting is this, and I'll come on to this a bit later, but this isn't using software from the architecture industry. This is using software from other industries, including kind of games industry, and also stuff more for kind of archaeology and the film industry. So this is another example of looking at the customer value. So what we're finding is we had quite a few people coming to us saying, we've got the money to do a build, we know what we'd like, but we just can't find the land. And so they'd come to us saying, we really want to do a project with you, but we can't find the land. And they'd go away, and they'd eventually come back about a year later saying, well, we finally found something, we're just going to have to buy an existing house and knock it down to build a new one. So we thought, well, that's interesting. Is there a way that we could somehow make more land available for people who wanted to build their own house? And so I think what Indy was talking about earlier about getting rid of, I think it's called disintermediation, so where you're getting rid of those management middlemen, which I think a lot in our industry is the developers. The idea of this is to say, what if we could persuade landowners, rather than to sell their lands to a developer, to sell their land to people who wanted to build their own house directly? And in order to do this, we sort of started to realise that you'd need a new type of consultant, which we're calling a custom build enabler. So this is someone who can work with a landowner to help them make their land ready to sell to custom builders. It makes the landowner more money. It also makes better houses that are more suited to their place. And also houses that are more suited to their occupants, because the people who are actually building them are the people who are going to eventually live there. So we've done 3 sites like this so far, and it's been a total success. And what's quite interesting is we've been designing houses rather than putting in for outline permission, which would be a bit sort of, I suppose it would be cheaper for us to do initially. We've actually been going for the full planning permission, and we've been using our knowledge of what clients have been telling us they really want from a house to design houses, because what we find is people often have very similar briefs. It's kind of a utility room to wash the dog down, and kind of an open plan living, dining, but then also a sort of snug. So we've been designing houses around what we know people want from being in the market. And actually very few, because we're getting those full planning applications, what we've been finding is that very few people actually want to change the design once they buy the land, partly because it means they don't have to go through the planning process again, which actually for a lot of people is a kind of seen as a real hassle and something that they don't enjoy. So Lived In Custom Build is the platform. It's a kind of sister company of Miller Howard Workshop. And we are actually, the idea is we're looking for architects as well to kind of collaborate with basically who we could send. The idea is to grow this platform so we can have sites all over the country. And rather than us doing all the work, is to work with other people to do different sites. And then the final thing I want to talk about is VR and virtual reality. So, I was kind of heavily into computer games as well at one point. And about 4 years ago, we got a very early kind of prototype of one of the virtual reality headsets. I'm intrigued. Who uses virtual reality in their practices at the moment? Yeah, so about 15 again. So. This has totally changed the way we work, and I think is going to totally change architecture. I don't think a prospective client coming in, we haven't lost a job once they've been in the VR. So once they've come in, tried the VR on, we haven't then not got that job. And what we're using is we're actually using games engine programs in order to demo that VR. So this is actually, this isn't our own work, but this is a shot from Unreal Engine, which we're using. And it's a this is a real-time rendering. So Unreal Engine can render this kind of 60 times a second to this level of detail. And this is another thing from YouTube. This is a guy who posts these things from Unreal Engine, these videos. Again, this is a screen grab from a real-time rendering. So what this allows you to do is when you put the headset on, you get these incredibly real experiences. And what we've been finding, this is the kind of the last slide. What we've been finding is, I think, before we were using VR, I think a lot of our clients didn't actually understand what we were proposing. And we were finding a lot of our time was just trying to communicate what we already kind of felt we knew about the building, communicating that to the client. And what we've found since starting to use VR is suddenly they're getting it. And suddenly the conversations that we're having with our clients are much more engaged and really about the architecture. And so suddenly now when they do say, actually, I don't like the way that that window sits, we kind of believe them because we feel like they've actually seen it in VR. I think the other thing is it's making a very... it's like particularly the Vive that's on the Vitruvian Man here. The Vive is an extremely real experience, and it's it's responsive to your own body, so it adapts to your height. So whoever's wearing it, if you're short, you feel the room as if you're short. If you're tall, you feel it taller. So it's actually responding to people's body and how they relate to the space. And I think hopefully what VR is going to do is create an architecture that's much more human focused and focused as kind of human proportions. And I'm also hoping that it enables clients to engage more in the actual process of design. And I think that's really exciting. So my top 3 takeaways from today are, so differentiate. So I think that's what I was talking about at the beginning. I think we've got to really learn not to present ourselves all in the same way. And actually from today, I think that's been something that's fantastic, is all the different speakers have sort of presented themselves all playing to their strengths and all in different ways. And I think it's really about people finding their own thing and then really shouting about that. Iterate. So I think a lot of these things that we've included within our practice, we've done through iterating through the design process. So we've got a VR headset, and within a week we were trialing it on our clients. It's taken us about 4 years to gradually kind of iterate that, get new headsets, work out the service, build the VR into our... So the VR is what you get when you go for the premium service. So iterating is really important. And that think customer value. So don't think about the costs. When you're talking to a client and negotiating the fees, really focus on that customer value. Think about the other side of the equation, because cost is only half of it, and really sell the benefits of what you're doing. And yeah.